When Lin Hao woke up, his brain seemed to be hit by a big pound, buzzing, and a sour smell on his body. When he looked at it, he saw what was it? Broken straw mats, leaking mud walls, and the buzzing. He looked down at himself and saw a piece of rag on his body, as thin as a bamboo pole. His hands were covered with mud, and he looked like a beggar. No, right? This is a time travel? Lin Hao's heart ran over with a horse in the mud. He worked overtime in the company the second before, but he became such a ghost the next second. Suddenly there was a lot of memories in his brain, telling him that this place was called Dakakeo, which was extremely strict and had no right to be squeezed. The civilians couldn't even eat it. Now he is a street beggar who is worse than dogs. God, are you playing with me? Lin Hao gritted his teeth, but soon calmed down. Since he is here to settle down, he is a modern man at least, and his brain has been filled with wisdom and business routines for 5,000 years. No matter how hard he is, he has to make a name for himself. Her stomach was roaring like thunder. Lin Hao covered his stomach, stumbled and got up, rolled a branch with a crutch, and walked out of this broken shed. There were hot streets outside, with huddles all over the two sides, shouting one after another, selling buns, cloth heads, and recommended cars to sell wood, which was a mess. Passers-by saw Lin Hao's appearance and covered his nose and rolled it open. Several little gangsters spit directly at him. Lin Hao's eyelids twitched, and his heart was filled with fire, but he didn't say a word and left with a low voice. He knew that he was trying hard to follow this helper and was purely seeking death. The right thing is to fill your stomach first, then think of a way to turn over money. He turned around the street and found that everything is expensive here, especially salt. A small handful of copper plates is enough, which ordinary people can't afford. But it just doesn't work without salt. The dishes are not delicious and pickled vegetables cannot be pickled. There is no supply in the market. Salt. This is a profitable business. Lin Hao's eyes lit up, and his brain quickly turned around. He remembered that modern times there was a simple way to lift coarse salt from seawater. There were many places near the sea, and the raw materials were not expensive and the cost was so low. If you could get it, you would definitely make a profit if you sold it. After saying that, Lin Hao gritted his teeth and walked along the street to the outside of the city. He found an uninhabited beach, picked up a broken pot, and made some firewood, and directly used the most primitive evaporation method to raise the salt. After working hard for most of the day, my hands were grinding out bubbles, and finally I made a small handful of coarse salt. Although the particles were uneven and the color was yellow, it could be used at least. It's done. The first pot of gold is up to you. Lin Hao looked at the thick salt in his hand, grinned, returned to the city, found a piece of rag, wrapped the salt, and began to figure out how to sell it. When he returned to the city, it was already dark and there were still people coming on the street. Lin Hao found a hot intersection, sat on the ground, put the small bag of salt in front of him, and shouted, "Look, take a look, the best sea salt is sold cheaply. A small spoon only costs 2 copper plates, which is half cheaper than the market." Passers-by heard this and kept throwing curious eyes, but most people were still half believing and half doubting. Who would believe that a beggar could sell good salt? A big boy came over and looked at the salt in Lin Hao's hand, and said with a brow, "How can you sell this salt so cheap? Isn't it fake?" Lin Hao stood up with a smile, borrowed some water from the side of the sauna, sprinkled the salt in the face of the crowd, then scooped it up, and then scooped it up. "Master, you tried it yourself, is it salty? This is the sea salt from Baji, pure and natural, without any leaf." The eldest son was half believing and half doubted. He took a sip of water and his eyes lit up. It's really salt. "Little brother, how can you sell this salt so cheap? A small spoon on the market costs 5 copper plates." Lin Hao smiled and deliberately suppressed a low voice. "Big, I'm selling very little profits and selling well. I just got a batch of goods. I first sell cheap points and earn a famous voice. I also hope you will be more generous in the future." His words are half true and half false. He is very good at modern marketing. He first attracts customers with low prices, and then spreads the market with word of mouth. This trick is 100 and wise. After hearing this, Lima took out 2 copper plates, bought a small spoonful of salt, and said excitedly, "Little brother, you are really good at salt, and I will bring you a neighbor to buy it another day." With the first customer, the people around him couldn't help but come over to watch the hot spot. Lin Hao took advantage of the hot spot and started shouting, "Dear uncles and sisters, I miss this village without this store. I have a good sea salt, 2 copper plates and 1 spoonful, first come first served, and it's all right after the sale." As soon as this was released, Lima attracted more people to visit. Who doesn't want to use this thing? The market price is so expensive, and there are cheap goods now, who is not interested? In less than half a time, Lin Hao sold all the thick salt in his hand. The rag bag was full of copper plates. In the number, there were more than 50. He had eaten for several days. It's been developed. Lin Hao was happy in his heart, but he didn't expect that this first pot of gold would come so quickly. He was about to collect the food, but he heard a sneer from a sneer. "Yee, how dare you sell salt here? Do you know whose floor this street is?" Lin Hao looked up and saw that he was talking about a big block, wearing tidy clothes, with a jade pendant hanging around his waist, and a little brother following him, which seemed to be not easy to mess with. He was standing beside him, who had just slandered Lin Hao. He was pointing at Lin Hao and said with a slight face, "Master Zhao, this guy has ruined our rules, and sells salts more cheaply than us, and it's a business." Lin Hao's heart sank, and Lima guessed that this person was probably related to the salt merchant in the city. He stood up and smiled and said, "This big brother, I am a small business, selling salt and eating. I don't want to kill anyone's business. You don't care about villains, so don't think about it." Manager Zhao snorted coldly, looked at Lin Hao up and down, his lingering was full of contempt. "Have a meal? Humph, can you touch the salt business? Tell you that the salts in this city are all the goods of the boss Xiao Dafu, and if you sell this thing, it's a bad rule. Come on, smash him to me." 2 little brothers stood up and rushed up, lifted their feet and kicked Lin Hao's floor. Passers-by next to him saw this and kept retreating, for fear of causing trouble. Lin Hao was quick-witted and fast-witted, and he held his copper plate and his brain flew quickly. It is definitely not possible to be hard, and now I can only take it smart. Wait a minute. Lin Hao shouted loudly, stood up straight, and looked at Manager Zhao with his face calmly. "Brother, you are the boss Zhao. You have a high status and a big business. You don't have to go with me, a little beggar. I'm selling this salt cheaply, and I've definitely won some business, but you haven't thought about it. This shows that there is demand in the market. If you cooperate with me, I can help you earn more." Manager Zhao was stunned. He obviously didn't expect Lin Hao to say this and sneered, "Cooperation? You, such a stinky beggar, deserve to talk about business with me? Tell me, what's the way? Don't waste time." Lin Hao curled his lips and said in a low voice, "Brother, my salt is cheap, which can attract more people to buy. If you cooperate with me, I supply goods, and you can send the channels. We will work with our partners to reduce the price and bring out the business of other salt merchants. By then, the market is all yours. Do you think it is worth it?" As soon as this happened, Manager Zhao was clearly moved, but he still showed a look of disdain on his face. "It's so good to say, but why do I trust you? Every time you have a problem with this salt, it hurts the reputation of Boss Zhao. Who is responsible?" Lin Hao was confident, and took out a little salt on the spot and borrowed water for a try. He proved that there was no problem. He also took out the copper plate that had just sold the salt and stuffed it to the manager. "Virgin, brother, this is what I paid today. I respect you as a filial pie. I, Lin Hao, do things and will never cheat people. If you don't believe it, I will smash my son at any time, and I will not say anything." Manager Zhao took the copper board, weighed it, his face turned a lot, and said with a pointed look, "Okay, boy, you are a little bit interested. Forget this today, I will mention it to the boss another day and see how to arrange for you. Don't play with the flowers, otherwise you will look good." After saying that, the Manager Zhao took the person away, and Lin Hao relaxed and wiped his cold sweat. When the passerby saw this, he gave him a thumbs up. The eldest son said in surprise, "Little brother, you are so good. Even the manager is useless to deal with you, it's a pity." Lin Hao smiled and knew in his heart that this was just a temporary silence. A big man like Xiao Dafu would have been troubled. But he is not afraid. There are so many tricks in modern business, and there is always a way to deal with it. Just as he was thinking, a crying sound suddenly came from beside him. Lin Hao looked at him and found a little girl on the road, as if she was 7 or 8 years old, as thin as a cat, and was torn clothes. She was waving her eyes down, and she was still holding half a hard and slimming head in her hand. Lin Hao felt a little soft in his heart and walked over and asked, "Little sister, what's wrong? Who is bullying you?" The little girl raised her head, her eyes were red, and she said in a low voice, My father is sick and I have no money to grab medicine. I just want to be a guitar. As a result, they took away and beat me." Lin Hao heard it, and his eyebrows snaked. Lima took out a few copper plates from his pocket and stuffed them into her hand. "Take it to grab your father with medicine, don't cry." "Yes, what are you calling? What should you do if you do?" The little girl was stunned for a moment, took the copper plate, and her eyes fell down again. "My name is Xiaotsui, there is no place to go, brother, thank you, you are a good person." Lin Hao touched her head and thought that he had just come to this world, alone and lacked help. This little girl looked at the magic weapon, so she might as well accept it. He smiled and said, "Xiao Chui, my brother has no ability, but he can eat at least. If you are willing to do it, follow me and help me sell goods. What if you are good at eating and wearing warm clothes?" Xiao Chui's eyes lit up and she kept pointing. "I wish. I can do anything, big brother, I hear whatever you say." Lin Hao ordered the head, took Xiao Chui to find a small bun, bought 2 hot buns, and gave her one, and ate and chatted with her, planning tomorrow's business. He suddenly felt indescribable in his heart as he looked at Xiao Chui's wolf swallowing tigers. Although this great qigong is not bad, with the first pot of gold and a little helper, life will always get better and better. Nowhere, the person in charge of the Zhao family hid in the alley, looked at this scene, muttering in a low voice, "This kid is not simple, you have to talk to the boss when you go back, don't let him harm our good things." Lin Hao looked at Xiao Chui gnawing on the satisfying little face of Baozi, and thought about what to do next. Although the business of selling salt has made some money, the help of Zhao is not a good deal. Although he has been fooled at the moment, a big man like Xiao Dafu has long been troubled with him. He had to take advantage of this and urge to make his business bigger, otherwise when the other party reacted, his little boy would probably be smashed. "Xiao Chui, please help me tomorrow. There is a small village in the east of the city. We go out to sea to fish. Let's get some sea water back. The more the better." Lin Hao said one side, and took out a few copper plates from his pocket and gave them to her. "Buy a few more broken jars, just use them. We have to tighten the salt and take advantage of the smallest current risk and store more goods." Xiao Chui sniffed her head, and she still had a bun in her mouth, and said vaguely, "Okay, big brother, I'll go early tomorrow morning, keep it safe." Lin Hao patted her head and said with a smile, "Okay, I'm doing well. I'll give you a chicken leg to eat tonight." As the man was talking, a sudden rushing sound came from the entrance of the alley. Lin Hao's ears moved, and the policeman stood up and turned to see that it was indeed several Hanzi wearing short striking beatings, walking towards him with a blink of an eye. The one in the head is full of flesh on his face and is holding a wooden stick in his hand. It is obvious that he is here to find fault. "Ye, stinky beggar, do you hear that your business is quite popular these days? Salt is cheaper than anyone else, it's not a small one." The squid boy walked up with a sneer, and his stick was pestle on the ground, making a bang sound. Passers-by next to him saw it and stood up and scattered, fearing that the fish would be affected. Lin Hao felt nervous, but he didn't look vocal on his face. He stood up and said with a smile, "Brother, I have something to say. I'm so tired of making some hard money in my small business. Isn't it necessary to be so angry, right? Stop talking to me." The sarcastic Hanzi spitted, pointed at Lin Hao's nose and said, you have damaged Boss Xiao's rules, causing the salt prices on this street to drop. If you don't give you some advice today, you really think you are a character. Brothers, smash it. As the voice fell, several gangsters behind him came up, and they raised their feet and kicked Lin Hao's gang. The rag bag was kicked all over the floor, and the clay pots they bought were broken. Xiao Chui shrank behind Lin Hao in surprise, and her little hands tightly grabbed the corner of his clothes. Her face turned white. Lin Hao's eyelids twitched, and his heart was filled with anger, but he knew that it would definitely not work. He gritted his teeth and shouted suddenly, "Stop it! Brother, what can we do to sit down and chat? Lin Hao, is a little man, I don't have to let you go on your own, right? Otherwise, I will respect you for all the rewards for these few days, and we will turn wars into jade. What's the case?" Speaking of this, he took out only a dozen leftover copper plates and passed them over with his head. The sarcastic man glanced at him and sneered, "As long as you lose money, you want to fight me too? Tell you, Boss Xiao has spoken. From today on, you won't be allowed to sell salt in this street, otherwise you will fight once and every time." Lin Hao heard this and felt a deep heart. It seems that Zhao Dafu was desperate to kill his business. This helper is not just here to make money or establish his authority today. He suppressed his anger and said in a low voice, "Okay, brother, I heard you. I will collect it today and stop selling it in the future. Can you?" The sirloin snorted, slapped his hands, took the man away, and left, and then said, "Remember, don't play with flowers, otherwise you will look good." When the person left far away, Lin Hao relaxed his voice and looked at the mess all over the ground, his fists clenched. Xiao Chui carefully pulled his sleeve and asked in a low voice, "Big brother, we really don't sell it anymore? What will we do in the future?" Lin Hao gritted his teeth, and a ruthless look flashed in his eyes, and he said in a low voice, "Don't sell? Joke! The more I feel this helper is, the more I will continue to do it. Xiao Chui, you have a good hearing. From tomorrow on, we will not only sell it, but also sell it more popular than before. Isn't Zhao Dafu awesome? I want to see, what can he do to me?" Xiao Chui was stunned for a moment and immediately pointed at the head, "Okay. Big brother, I heard you, let's have sex with them." The next morning, Xiao Chui went to Donghan village, Chang's Donghan village as Lin Hao ordered, and brought back a lot of seawater. Lin Hao found a hidden place outside the city and continued to lift the coarse salt. After a whole day of busy work, I made several large bags of salt. Although the quality was not good, the quantity was large, so I would definitely make a fortune when I sold it. However, Lin Hao was not so stupid that he went back to the street to storm. He knew that the rich people would definitely be watching him. Going back directly was to surrender to the Ronaldo website. He and Xiao Chui decided to change the place and choose the sacrificial area in the west of the city. There was no big business there, and the price of salt was too expensive, and ordinary people could not afford it. The market was blank, which was a good opportunity to start. Remember, let's be low-key, don't shout, please solicit guests one by one, and then calm down. Lin Hao and Xiao Chui, carrying salt bags, began to wander around the alleys in the west of the city. Sure enough, when the people here heard that the price of salt was only 2 copper plates and a spoonful, their eyes lit up. They paid for money and bought it. In less than half a minute, most of the salts they brought were sold. It's been released, it's been released. Big brother, we're paying more today than the previous few days. Xiao Chui pointed the copper plate, smiling so hard that she couldn't hold her mouth. Lin Hao was not that happy. He patted Xiao Chui on the head and said in a low voice, "Don't be too excited too early. Zhao Dafu would have known that we should switch places to sell goods. We have to think of a way to make the business stable, otherwise it would be useless." As he was speaking, an acquaintance suddenly appeared at the entrance of the alley, which was the big man who bought Lin Hao a few days ago. When she saw Lin Hao, Lima greeted warmly, "Little brother, I've seen you again. Why haven't you been sucking these days?" "I'm still trying to buy more of your cheap salt." Lin Hao smiled and replied to a few words. Suddenly, his heart flashed, and he pulled the eldest son to the side and asked in a low voice, Zhao, you know a lot of people. Can you help me hear something? Boss Zhao, who sells salt in this city, is the business like this recently? Is there any silence? The eldest son was stunned and said in a low voice, Yi, why are you asking this? But it's nothing to tell you. The man Zhao Dafu is very unhappy. Recently, he heard that he had stocked up a lot of salt in the north of the city and was ready to wait for the price to sell again, which cheated many people. I heard from my boss that the salt in his warehouse was almost ruined, and he was still reluctant to take action, and he was holding on. Lin Hao heard this, his eyes lit up, and he was so poor that he could not save his salt. This is a big loophole. He thought that the bigger the business, the more loopholes the big guy like Zhao Dafu he might have. As long as he grasped this, he might be able to cheat him hard. Grandpa, thank you, you have helped this matter. Lin Hao smiled and stuffed it to the master several copper plates, and then turned around and pulled Xiao Chui to discuss the countermeasures. Xiao Chui, we have something to do. Zhao Dafu stocks up salt and lets it go. This is an opportunity. We have to come over the market while he has not reacted. Xiao Chui blinked and didn't understand much. Brother, how can we beat him? How can we compare with him for the salt? Lin Hao smiled and said in a low voice, we definitely can't compare ourselves, but we have brains. I've heard that tomorrow you go to the north of the city to turn around and find a few people who rely on me, spread the news, and say that the rich salt will be damaged. If you eat it, you will have diarrhea. People in the city will not buy his goods. At the same time, we will press our own salt price by 1 copper plate and 1 spoonful, and we will sell it with a small profit but a lot of sales. Let's first call it out. Xiao Chui was stunned for a moment when she heard this, but she still pointed, okay, I'll do it now. Big brother, you really can't kill me if I do this. Lin Hao grinned and said, it's best to die of anger. Don't you want to squeeze me to death? I'll let him first hit his feet by moving a stone. In the next few days, Xiao Chui followed Lin Hao's instructions and spread rumors everywhere. Sure enough, news about Zhao Dafuyan's problem was soon spread in the city. Many people heard that Lima did not dare to buy his goods, and they all came to Lin Hao to find him. Lin Hao took the opportunity to reduce the price of salt to 1 copper plate and 1 spoonful. Although he paid less, he could not hold on to the large amount. After several days, he forced the market in the west of the city to make the copper plate full of pots. On the other side of Zhao Dafu, the business collapsed halfway. He heard that he was so angry that he had fallen into the house that he had thrown a few tea chickens and sent people to investigate who had ruined his good things. Lin Hao knew that this matter would not be hidden for long, and Zhao Dafu would have found himself, but he was not afraid. He held the copper plate in his hand and had a very strong bottom. On this day, Lin Hao was selling salt in the west of the city with Xiao Chui, when he suddenly heard a horse hoof sound coming from a distance. He looked up and saw several people wearing official uniforms riding horses. The leader was not old, at his 30 years old, with a white face and looked like a civil servant. Passers-by saw it and kept saying, and the comments came one after another. That's Lord Wang. I heard that he was a newly advised tax official from the court. He was responsible for taxes in the city. Recently, he has found those big merchants to have a very painful head. An old man selling vegetables next to him muttered in a low voice. Lin Hao heard this and felt a little nervous. Tax official? This is a thigh that can be climbed. His eyes turned. Lima pulled Xiao Chui and said in a low voice, let's go, and have a hot mood, maybe there's a chance to catch this adult. When the man stepped into the crowd, he just walked closer. He heard Lord Wang ask his subordinates with his eyebrows, how come the taxes of salted pork on this street are 30% less than last month? Who is selling goods at a price and destroying the rules? Lin Hao's heart skipped a beat and said in his mind that it was not good. This matter must have something to do with him. But his brain turned quickly, stood up and smiled, raised his face, and whispered, Mr. Wang, villain Lin Hao, I have to say it. The low price of this salt is not a villain's fault, but someone stocks up on the stock price, which has damaged the market rules. Villain is to eliminate harm for the people. Lord Wang heard this, raised his eyebrows and looked at Lin Hao with a low head. His lingerie was filled with a hint of excitement. Oh? To eliminate harm to the people? You little boy, you will say, what's going on? Lin Hao was happy and knew that this was an opportunity. He immediately told Zhao Dafu that the price of the salt was reduced and the market was in chaos. Of course, his speaking strategy was to never mention it, and he only said that he sold cheap salt so that people could afford it. After Lord Wang finished listening, his face turned a lot and said, well, you have some meanings like this little girl. Let's do this. If you come to the yamen another day, I will ask you if I have something to do. If it is true, I will make the decision for you. After hearing this, Lin Hao felt happy in his heart, and he hurriedly watched Lord Wang take his people away. Xiao Chui pulled his sleeve aside and asked in a low voice, brother, will this lord really help us? Isn't it meant us? Lin Hao grinned and patted her head. I'm not sure, I will only know when I go. However, this is an opportunity, we have to catch it. Let's go back and prepare for it. Go to the yamen tomorrow. I may be able to borrow the help of this adult to finally step on Zhao Dafu. The man packed up his chest and took it all, but Lin Hao knew in his heart that Zhao Dafu would never be good at rest. Next, the real tough battle is still at the back. Lin Hao took Xiao Chui back to their broken shed where they had fallen into their feet at a time, and his heart turned and counted tomorrow's trip to the yamen. Lord Wang heard that it seemed like he gave him an opportunity, but the water in the official venue was very deep. Who knew that this lord really wanted to help him, or was he perfunctory? But no matter what, this is an opportunity to get close to the power circle. If it is wrong, it will not be next time. Xiao Chui, you stay at home to watch your son tomorrow, I'll go to the yamen to explore the road. Remember, don't run around, the rich people must be staring at us, and be calm. Lin Hao slapped and took out a few copper plates from his rag bag and sent them to Xiao Chui. If someone really wants to trouble, just say I'll go in and get in for goods outside the city, don't show your bag. Xiao Chui pointed his head and said that he was full of seriousness on his face. Don't worry, big brother, what should I do? You should be careful when you go to the yamen. If you hear those officials, none of them are easy to mess with. Lin Hao smiled and patted her head. I know, little housewife. Go to bed, there will be a tough battle tomorrow. Nothing happened overnight. The next morning, Lin Hao changed into only a slightly flat-faced dress. Although he was still broken, he was washed clean and didn't look like a beggar. He clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and walked towards the yamen. The yamen is located in the center of the city, with 2 stone lions at the entrance, and several yamen runners stand at the door, staring at the people passing by, looking tall and above. Lin Hao approached, stood up and smiled, bowed to one of the yamen runners. This big brother, the villain Lin Hao. Yesterday, Lord Wang asked me to come to the yamen to reply today, and I had a message to you. The yamen runner looked up and down at Lin Hao, and snorted in his nose. Mr. Wang asked you to come? Just like you, can you still see me? Tell me, what's the matter, don't waste my time. Lin Hao's heart sank, but his face did not show any voice, and he continued to smile. Brother, it is indeed what Lord Wang said in his personal opinion. Regarding the price of salt in the city, villains dare not come, so you can do it for convenience. The yamen runner heard this, his face calmed slightly, and he sniffed. Okay, stand here and wait, I'll ask. Don't be upset, otherwise you will be thrown out. Lin Hao was busy and stood at the door and waited, his heart rising and falling. After half a day, the yamen runner finally came back and said unhappily, Go in, Lord Wang is waiting for you in the back hall. Don't talk or hear me? Thank you, brother. Lin Hao hurriedly responded, followed the yamen runners through several long corridors and came to a small book room. Lord Wang was sitting behind the book, holding a volume of text and looking down, listening to it calmly, looking up at Lin Hao, speaking plainly. Are you Lin Hao? Are you really convinced of the things I said yesterday? Lin Hao felt nervous and knew that this was a key moment. Lima lowered his head and said respectfully, Good, every word that the villain said is true. The rich stockpiled salt and caused the market to be in chaos. The miserable people in the west of the city could not afford to buy salt at all. The villain sold cheap salt, but he wanted everyone to use it and did not dare to have any selfishness. If the adults didn't believe it, they could send someone to the north of the city to check his warehouse. The salt stored in it would have been damaged long ago, and they refused to sell it, which made people cheat. Lord Wang heard this, narrowed his eyes, put down the text in his hand, and knocked on the table. Oh? Is it bad to stock up? This is not a trivial matter for you. If you can't find out, do you know what the consequences are? Lin Hao's heart skipped a beat, but his face was determined and said with a hard face, "Sir, villains dare not speak nonsense, every sentence is true. If there is a little bit of false words, villains are willing to punish." Lord Wang stared at him for a while, and finally he started to speak with a bit of excitement in his language. "Okay, it's a pity. I really heard that the salt merchants in the north of the city are a bit uncensored. Recently, the court is about to consolidate the market, so you reminded me. That's it. Today, you go to the north of the city with my people. If it's true, I will make the decision for you." Lin Hao heard this and was happy and said quickly, "Thank you, sir. The villain will definitely cooperate." That afternoon, Lord Wang sent 2 confidants to take Lin Hao and head straight to the wealthy warehouse in the north of the city. On the way, Lin Hao was joking in his heart. Although he believed that the news from Dagong was true, what if he had done the bad salt? Then isn't he asking for trouble? But now, the arrow is on the string and can only be hard on the skin. When they arrived at the entrance of the warehouse, the 2 officials showed the tokens directly, and the guardians saw the situation. As soon as their faces changed, they ran in to report. After a while, Zhao Dafu came out, smiled all over his face, bowed to the official officer. "Yeah, 2 adults, what did you blow up?" "The little Zhao Dafu, there are all rough goods here, nothing is good to look at." The head official snorted coldly and pointed at the warehouse gate. "Stop talking, I heard that you have bad stockings of salt here, affecting the market. Today, on the order of Lord Wang, come and check. Open the door, don't let us move." Zhao Dafu's face froze and his eyes flashed, but he still smiled and said, "Sir, is this a mistake, right? Small business is always clean, where's it so bad? Otherwise, let's go in for a cup of tea and chat slowly." "Stop talking." Another official slapped his hand impatiently. "Open the door, otherwise you will be taken back to the yamen to ask." Zhao Dafu was not bad, so he had to let people open the door and bring a few people into the warehouse. Lin Hao followed behind, his eyes swept around. Sure enough, there were several large bags of salt piled up in the corner, and the mouth of the bag was bleak, emitting a strange smell. The official walked over, grabbed a handful of his hand, put it under his nose and heard a voice. His face calmed down. "What is this?" "Dafu, do you dare to say no problem?" Zhao Dafu got cold sweat from his head and hurriedly smiled. "Sir, this is a small part of the stock. It has been stored for a long time, but the small one has never sold these. They are all internally used, please make a clear look." "Use it internally?" "Humph, all the warehouses are all this stuff. Do you think we are blind?" The official sneered and turned to Lin Hao. "Boy, you said it well. There is indeed a cat in this matter. Go back and report to Lord Wang. This wealthy man needs to be treated well." Lin Hao felt a little relieved, but he didn't dare to show it on his face, so he still lowered his head and put on his old age. Zhao Dafu noticed Lin Hao's existence only then, with a ruthless look in his eyes, and gritted his teeth in a low voice. "Okay, it turns out that it's you, a stinky beggar, you are the ones who are doing it. I'm saying, why are there always problems in business recently? Wait, I can't kill you." Lin Hao felt nervous, but there was an official at the scene. He knew that Zhao Dafu did not dare to come, so he lowered his head and didn't hear him. The official took him away from the warehouse and went straight back to the yamen to report the situation to Lord Wang. After hearing this, Lord Wang looked dark and slapped the table and said, "What a rich man who dares to destroy the market rules and harm the people. Come on, send orders and punish him for 3,000 silver pieces. The total amount of the bad salt in the warehouse is not collected. If you commit it again, just search the house." Lin Hao listened aside, and he was happy in his heart. This time, Zhao Dafu was kicked to the iron board. Lin Hao was stunned. Unexpectedly, there was such a good thing. His brain quickly turned around. Lima said respectfully, "Sir, villains dare not ask for rewards, but only hope that adults can give them opportunities so that they can do a stable business and no longer be bullied." Lord Wang pointed his head and thought for a moment, saying, "Okay, I am not an unkind person. I heard that the court will purchase a batch of goods for use by the surrounding troops in the near future, including salt. Since you have a way, it is better to try it. If you can win the lottery, I will keep you safe." Lin Hao's eyes lit up. This was a huge opportunity. The court purchased it, which was a big business. It became a supplier. Not only could it make a big money, but it could also connect with the official venue. Who would dare to irritate him easily in the future? He hurriedly thanked his kindness. "Thank you for your kindness, and the villain will definitely not be expected." After leaving the yamen, Lin Hao was so excited that he was walking a little faster. He knew that this was the key to turning things around. As long as he won this business, no matter how powerful he was, he would have to keep his head down. When he returned to the sanctuary, he told Xiao Chui about this, and Xiao Chui clapped her hands in a hurry. "Big brother, we are going to do it now. The business of the court is something that many people can't get even if they break it. Discovery is development, but you have to be careful." Lin Hao lowered his voice and his face became solemn. "Zhao Dafu will never be good at slack off after eating this big thing. We have to prepare carefully and fight to win this business, otherwise we will have no good results when he fights." In the next few days, Lin Hao and Xiao Chui were so busy that they gathered seawater everywhere, strengthened and improved the salt. At the same time, they also found a few trustworthy men and signed a long-term supply agreement to ensure that the supply source was stable. He knew that the court looked at the quantity and price when purchasing. Although the salty was rough, the cost was low. As long as the price was reduced, the price was quite good. But just as he was fully prepared for the battle, the trouble still came to the door. In the evening, Lin Hao was carrying Xiao Chui to pick up a salt outside the city when he suddenly heard a hurrying sound coming from a distance. He looked up and saw several people wearing official uniforms walking towards him. The head was full of face and a sense of badness in his eyes. "Lin Hao, right? Did you hear that your business has been doing a big deal recently, and you dare to take even the imperial court's orders?" The man sneered, his lingering, full of picking words. "I am the chief clerk of the department who sent him to investigate the salt business. I heard that your salt is unknown, so I am afraid there is something wrong, right?" Lin Hao's heart sank, and Lima guessed that this was probably the one who was found by Zhao Dafu. On the surface, he checked salt, but actually found faults. He piled up his smile and said respectfully, "Mr. Liu, the villain's salt is raised by himself, and the road is very clean. If the adults don't believe it, you can check it at any time." The chief clerk snorted coldly and let the person behind him come forward. "Investigate? Humph, of course you have to check it. Come on, turn the broken place into the sky. I want to see where this stinky beggar dares to do business with the court." Several people came from the Lima to turn over Lin Hao's salt bag and clay pot, and their actions were very rough, and Xiao Chui was pushed and staggered. Lin Hao was filled with anger, but he knew that he was not strong enough, so he could only grit his teeth and endure it, and his brain flew quickly. Suddenly, he flashed his spirit and said to Xiao Chui in a low voice, "Go, look for Lord Wang, just say that someone deliberately seeks trouble and helps him." Xiao Chui pointed at the head and sneaked away while the trouble was in trouble. Lin Hao continued to laugh and delayed the time. "Sir Liu, there is really no problem with this salt of the villain. You can't find anything after you look through it. Why not sit down and drink a sip of water and let's talk slowly?" "Stop talking to me." Lu Zhuang was impatient and was about to continue to find fault. Suddenly, a sound of horse hoofs came from a distance. Several people wearing Lord Wang's mansion rushed over quickly. When the man in the head saw the scene, Lima shouted in a deep voice, "Who dares to act here? Lord Wang has an order. Lin Hao is a protected person. Whoever moves him is to go with Lord Wang." The face of Lu Zhuan changed. It seemed that he didn't expect Lord Wang to intervene and hesitated. This is a mistake. I'm just a routine inspection, no other intention. Missing? Humph, go back and tell your master clearly, don't think that you can get into trouble with a little background. Lord Wang's subordinate snorted coldly and said to Lin Hao, Boy, sir, don't worry about you. He will handle this matter. Just prepare the salt. The things purchased by the court are bound to be your share. Lin Hao felt a little relieved in his heart, and he still lowered his head to thank him. Thank you so much, thank you very much, brother. When the chief clerk saw this, he took the people away in shame. After leaving, he also said a ruthless sentence, Boy, wait, this matter is not over. Lin Hao looked at their backs, curled his lips and thought to himself, isn't it over? Okay, I want to see who can laugh to the end. He turned his head and said to Xiao Cui, let's go, let's get more money, tighten the salt, take this business, let's help people's eyes. A few days later, the bidding for the imperial court finally began. Lin Hao, with the products in quotes, insisted on low prices and Lord Wang's secret help, defeated several other big merchants, successfully won the bid, and became a salt supplier for the surrounding army. This single business not only made him full of money, but also made him famous in the city. Even the small merchants who had originally looked down on him began to take the initiative to join in. After hearing the news, Zhao Dafu fell ill and lay on the bed to make Lin Hao feel guilty. But no matter how hard he is, it is useless. Lin Hao has officially entered the circle of power, and he is backed by Lord Wang. Whoever wants to move him must think seriously. In the evening, Lin Hao stood at the head of the city, looking at Xiang far away, with a smile hanging from the corner of his mouth. He knew that this was just the beginning and the real challenge was still at the back. The water in the imperial court is much deeper than the small streets. He has to run step by step to stand firm. Come on, who are you afraid? Lin Hao muttered in a low voice, turned around and walked down the city, his back pulled the eldest son under Xiang. Lin Hao stood at the head of the city, watching the sun sinking westward, and the flames in his heart were burning vigorously. Taking down the salt supply from the court was just his first step on the way. Although Zhao Dafu had eaten the big slaughter, this old fox would never stop. The water in the imperial court is 100 times deeper than the street business. He has to be careful every step to climb higher and walk farther. Back at the broken shed, Xiao Cui was squatting on the ground and placing copper plates. When he saw him coming back, Lemma jumped up, his eyes lit up like a star. Brother, have you entered a lot again today, right? When will we move in a good place to live? This broken room is leaking and rainy, and it is not enough to sleep. Lin Hao smiled and knocked on her brain. What's the hurry? The money is a big deal, but now is not the time to spend it. The old man Zhao Dafu must be holding back his big moves. We have to earn some money and take care of the tough battles we will take. By the way, have there been any noise in the city recently? Xiao Cui curled her lips and said in a low voice, What's wrong? I heard that Zhao Dafu found someone from the department and spoke everywhere, saying that our salt was not right and was ready to report to the court, saying that you are an unknown wild way and don't have any other household registration, so maybe you will be arrested and asked. Lin Hao heard this and his heart sank. His face had not changed much. He smiled and said, Okay, he is so anxious to jump into the wall. Is it right? Okay, let's play with him. I don't believe it, he can cover the sky with one hand. After saying that, he turned around and flipped out a small bag of copper plates from the rag bag and stuffed them into Xiao Cui's hand. Tomorrow you go to the east of the city to find a trusted tooth, help me get a fake identity, silver flowers, just be clean. The rest, you continue to stare at Zhao Dafu's tranquility. If you have any sway, Lima tells me. Xiao Cui pointed his head and tightened his copper plate. Don't worry, big brother, don't you believe me in my work? But, are you really not afraid of trouble for the department to help others? Lin Hao curled his lips and saw a ruthless look in his eyes. Fear? Fearing, you're afraid. I've never seen any straits since I've been a beggar now. I want to play with Dafu, so I let him know who is the final winner. In the next few days, Lin Hao was on the surface and continued to stabilize the salt supply business, secretly accelerating his layout. Not only did he get Xiao Cui to have a fake identity, he also took the initiative to contact Lord Wang, and gave him a lot of filial piety, and then stabbed Zhao Dafu's plan to sue the department. Lord Wang heard this, and glanced at the table and slapped the table, saying, "Humph, I really don't stop doing this. Lin Hao, don't worry, this official will help you to settle the matter. If someone in the department dares to come, I will be the first one." With Lord Wang's words, Lin Hao felt even more confident. He knew that defense alone was not enough. If you want to kill the rich, you must take the initiative to attack. So he began to secretly contact other small merchants in the city who were forced by Zhao Dafu, and perhaps led them to form an alliance with low-priced salt supply conditions to fight Zhao Dafu's failure. Dear brothers, Zhao Dafu has been making us feel better over the years. The price of salt will rise and business will fall. Our lives will be like dogs. Lin Hao said passionately to more than a dozen small businesses in a remote courtyard. Now, I, Lin Hao, have a way to provide cheap salt. Let's work together to bring the market back to let the old guy see who is the real boss in this city. This helping small businessman has been bullied by Zhao Dafu for a long time. When he heard Lin Hao's words, Lima was in a state of great enthusiasm and slapped the table and shouted, "Okay. Brother Lin, we will hear you, fuck him." In this way, Lin Hao's alliance has begun to take shape and the salt price battle is in full swing. He deliberately reduced the price of salt to a lower price, almost making money, and specialized in snatching the wealthy market share. In less than half a month, Zhao Dafu's business was directly at his back and the salt in the warehouse could not be sold out, so he would have lost all his money. In the evening of this day, Zhao Dafu finally couldn't help it, and with a helping thug, he blocked Lin Hao's new son directly. He looked full of hair and pointed at Lin Hao's nose and said, "Boy, do you really think I'm not good at you? I won't kill you today, I will write the words upside down." Lin Hao looked at his anxious and frustrated look and felt relieved. He put on his face and was innocent. "Boss Zhao, what's going on? The villain just sells salt and eats a lot of food. You, a big man, don't you want to go with me, right? Put down the garlic." Zhao Dafu gritted his teeth and let the thug come up with his hand. "Smash it to me, smash it all as broken pieces. See if he dares to break business with me." Seeing that the thugs were about to take action, a sudden hurried sound came from the entrance of the alley. Several people wearing official uniforms walked over quickly, and the head was Lord Wang's confidant. When he saw this scene, Lima shouted, "Stop! Who dares to be rude in the city? Dafu, you are such a big sage. How dare you not listen to the meaning of Lord Wang?" Zhao Dafu's face turned pale, and Lima smiled. I'm wrong. I'm just talking about business with this kid, it's nothing different." "Talking about business? Humph, come and chat with a helper." The confidant sneered and said to Lin Hao, "Lin Hao, sir, you are the supplier of the court. If you move you will not be able to get along with the court. Go back and tell your backer, this matter is not over." Zhao Dafu heard this and looked hard as if he had eaten shit. He could only take the person away in shame. He glared at Lin Hao fiercely when he left. Lin Hao looked down on the surface and was very happy in his heart. "Handsome guy, you've finally gotten it this time." Sure enough, within a few days, the court issued a document to formally seize all the warehouses of Zhao Dafu, and punished 5,000 silvers, directly slashing him into the deep penis. Zhao Dafu ran away from the salt industry in the city overnight and became a street rat that everyone shouted and beaten, and all the servants in the family ran away. He said that in the end he had to sell his ancestral home. Lang Feng fled to the country and never came back. Lin Hao looked at the empty Zhao mansion gate and curled his lips. "I have been fighting for so long, and finally stepped on you, the old fox. From today on, I have the final say in the salt business in this city." After solving Zhao Dafu, Lin Hao's business finally took off. The profits provided by salt made him quickly lose money, and at the same time, it also attracted the attention of more officials. Lord Wang took the opportunity to lead him to a higher level of valuables. Lin Hao was sympathetic with his past business and modern knowledge, and soon stood firm in the court. Not only did he continue to expand the scale of the salt industry, he also extended his hands to the iron and tea leaves business, breaking more power and making the pot full. Over the past few years, Lin Hao has become an important official of the court and has become a minister of the court. He did not forget the pain he suffered that year, and began to promote the salt iron reform with a big knife and axe, decentralize the power of these scarce resources, so that ordinary merchants could also participate, breaking the power of the wall. The price of salt and iron prices have dropped sharply, and the people can finally afford these necessities and their lives are getting better and better. Mr. Lin is really our benefactor. If it weren't for him, how could we afford such cheap salt? Put 2 spoons of food in the cooking, and it tastes good if you eat it. At the end of the streets, the people mentioned Lin Hao, and gave a thumbs up and were full of gratitude. Lin Hao heard these words and couldn't tell the truth in his heart. He knew that he had stepped on countless people and offended countless people all the way, but as long as he could make these ordinary people live a good life, it would be worth it. However, the official venue is not a good place. The salt iron reform has touched too many valuable interests and opposes waves one after another. Some even publicly impeached him in the court, saying that he was of a low origin and had no qualifications to interfere in the government affairs. Lin Hao heard these sarcastic remarks, just smiled faintly, then threw out a thick piece of documentary books in the court, shaking out all the illegitimate evidence of those opponents. "Sir, I speak very well, but how many unscrupulous silver pieces are stored in your warehouse? Isn't it true that there are so many in your heart?" Lin Hao stood in the middle of the hall, his voice and lens were powerful, and his eyes swept over everyone. "I, Lin Hao, is a beggar, but I feel guilty about what I do. If you dare to say anything, we will calculate it clearly and see who is the big clay." As soon as this happened, the civil and military officials in the court were silent. Those who were usually arrogant were low-headed and silent, for fear that Lin Hao would grab the little seed. The emperor saw that Long Yan was very upset. When he decided to support the reform, he also praised Lin Hao with politeness. "Lin Iching, although you are from a humble background, you care about the people. I feel very relieved. From today on, you will be promoted to a first-rank prime minister and in charge of the government. No one will have any more disputes." Lin Hao knelt down and thanked him for his kindness, and his heart was unsurprising. He knew that the position of this first-rank prime minister was not the final point, but the starting point of another battleground. But no matter how difficult the road ahead is, he will not retreat. From beggars to prime minister, he has been walking for too long this road. Now he is finally standing on the peak. Who should not think of pulling him down again? That night, Lin Hao returned to the mansion. Xiao Chui was already waiting at the door and greeted him with a smile. "Brother, have you heard that you are the prime minister? This is really our glorious door. I have said a long time ago that you are not an ordinary person, and you should have experienced it now." Lin Hao smiled and patted her head, looking at the golden and green mansion in front of him, and sighed thousands of emotions. The stinky beggar in the broken hut that year has now become the most powerful person in the great Qi dynasty. Only he himself knows the ups and downs along the way. "Xiao Chui, you have been following me over the years and suffered a lot. From now on, our lives will only get better and better," Lin Hao said in a low voice, with a hint of gentleness in his eyes. Xiao Chui curled her lips, her eyes were a little red. "Brother, what are you talking about? I have never regretted being with you. Now that you are the prime minister, I can also benefit from it. It's worth it." The man smiled at each other, pushed open the door of the mansion, and walked in. In the yard, the lights are bright, and servants often come, and they are extremely popular. Lin Hao finally felt like he was stepping on the ground when he saw everything. A few months later, the salt iron reform was fully implemented, and the economic rebirth of the great dynasty was reborn, and the lives of the people became increasingly popular. Lin Hao, as the driving force of reform, was loaded into history and became a legend of a generation. Those rights that once looked down on him and suppressed him have long been trampled under his feet and can no longer make waves. On this day, Lin Hao stood on the long corridor outside the palace, looking at the lights of Wanjia far away, and his mouth slightly raised. He knew that all this was just the beginning, and there were too many unfair things waiting for him to change. And he has already prepared and continues to change this world in his own way. God, thank you, I gave me this rebellious life. Lin Hao muttered in a low voice, turned around and walked into the hall, his back calmly. From a beggar on the street to a prime minister, his legendary story finally put a perfect sentence on his paintings.